Kapuia ke ala O ka pika ke I ka o ahe ahe A kamakani Aloha a e au I ka pua ume mau
Aloha everyone. So this beautiful song is called Le Pekaki. It's by Hapa, beautiful Hawaiian song that's about the beautiful pikake flower that smells like a gardenia. And of course, aloha to you, White Rabbit. So I really didn't hear much from you the other night during the live interview. So you didn't say anything in front of my face, but right behind my back the next day you had plenty to say. So, White Rabbit, I hope you took my advice and packed a lunch and kissed your mom, because today I'm taking you to school. So that I can take you on a journey from understanding to a much higher level of overstanding. But before we begin, please do me a favor and remove your religious, biblical blinders. Set aside and leave behind all of your religious dogma, because today we're going to enter into the real world and leave the fake world behind us, because today we are going on a journey of truth and wisdom. Truth is universal and absolute. It's like a circle or a wheel. So if you placed 360 people around that wheel and asked them to describe an object that you place in the center, you're going to get 360 different perspective views. A viewpoint opinion that is only relative to their perspective. So, for example, from White Rabbit's perspective, he assumes that I'm spewing bullshit. But the real truth is, from his religious perspective and his viewpoint, his limited, ignorant understanding of the actual truth is why you assume, Mr. Rabbit, that I'm wrong. But the truth is, you're wrong. So now I'm going to take you from a lower, basic, novice, level 1 understanding to a higher level of overstanding. So the White Rabbit says, that I've tainted the language and, I'm wrong and I'm a clown, dumbass, and all that stuff. Anyway, let's hear what he has to say. One of his claims in this video was that the word rapture breaks down to Ra Pichur and derives from the Egyptian god Ra, which is the sun god. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Rapture comes from the word raptura, which means a seizing and a carrying off. Anyway, he goes on to say, it comes from the sun, the light, blah, blah, blah. So, let's get down to the nitty-gritty and let's see who holds the absolute truth in their hands. So, White Rabbit, it's your conjecture that the word rapture does not mean nor is related to the Egyptian god Ra, and you said it means a seizing and a carrying off, which I'll cover later. And you made a statement saying that the word rapture doesn't even exist in the Bible, and that is true, because actually no English word whatsoever exists in the Bible, because it's all translated from the Hebrew to the Greek to the English. So they could have used the word rapture, but they didn't. You're correct. Unfortunately, that's the only thing that you're correct about, because everything else you're 100% wrong about. So let me take you from a novice understanding to a master understanding of the truth. So, the rapture is understood to be the final resurrection, the second coming of Jesus Christ, when he will, raise the dead or all of the living, and everybody will meet him up in the air. So I see the entire story behind the veil. The rapture is clear to me, but it's sad that the Christians don't even understand the truth that lies behind the bullshit of the pair of bulls, or the parable. In other words, the bullshit. I mean, did you think that this was my first rodeo? You should have done your research before you came to me and assumed I was wrong. So here is the wisdom, the knowledge, and the logical truth of the very root, which is the foundation of what all of this is talking about. So countless times I have actually proven the fact that the apocalypse and rapture and revelations all are talking about the sun god, Re or Ra. You see, I am going to prove it from all angles, from all perspectives, from all 360 degrees of possibility. I am 100% correct, and I'm going to prove it. So here is the real light of the truth. So the etymological root of rapture comes from the Latin raptura, or the raptus, meaning a seizure, rape, kidnapping, or a carrying off. And of course, this is the same etymology that you showed in your comment, which of course you have no idea why, and you don't understand the etymology and didn't take it far enough. So rapture is a compound word made basically of two different words that are compressed together, and the root, or the parent and triliteral root of the word is rap, or the wrapped. And then the T-U-R-E, or the U-R-E, is basically talking about a process. So the parent root is ra, and then the triliteral root is rap, which means a carrying off, an abduction, a rape, a seizure, or a carrying away. So a rapture is basically the process of carrying off, the act of taking away, an abduction, or a rape. So let's take a look at the aperture etymology, and it comes from the apertus, and it means to open, and the pi root, or the parent root, is ap, off, away, to cover, thus the pi root of op, over, thus like a veil, or the meaning of opening and shutting. And of course, on a camera, which is all about lighting, is the degree of the aperture, or the degree or amount, the strength of the light, and more specifically, the sunlight. So your shallow grasp of understanding this situation is that you don't even realize that the single letter root of R is about the sun. But I'll be getting back to that. Let's focus on the abduction and the carrying off and the raping. So like I've explained, one day is both day and night, which is the microcosm of both winter and summer of 1 year. So to the ancients, every day the sun would rise, and then it would be abducted, carried off, and taken away to the underworld. So of course this is where the concept of aperture comes from, as the sun goes from the largest or the most light down to the little pinhole of no light. So you see, the ancients actually saw the sun as a sowing and a reaping every day. Every day would be sown or birthed, and then every day it would die or be reaped. Just as the sun does in the macrocosm of the year at the end of the season, or the end of the harvest, when the sun dies and goes to the underworld. So you see, you have no idea why rapture is related to rape and being abducted, but it has 100% everything to do with the sun god Ra, or Re, also known as Helios, Apollo, the soul, as well as Shamash and Utu, So you see, the Bible is all about the sower and the reaper. It's all about the sun cycles of the harvest, planting and reaping. Thus, the harvest is the end of the age. It's not the end of the world, not the end of the time or of life. It's the end of the season. Thus, the harvest is the crop for eternal life that repeats, because that's exactly what the sun does. It is the bringer of the fields and the harvest, and of course, the bringer of the reaping of the harvest. So it's all related to the sun 100%. Thus, the ancient grain and harvest rituals that were around thousands of years before the Bible. And of course, one of the most ancient popular myths of the grain and harvest rituals was that of Eleusinian mysteries of Eleusis. The ancient harvest and grain fertility rituals that were all about the harvest goddess Demeter and her daughter Persephone, or Persephone, who was abducted and raped by the god of the underworld, Hades, who came up and seized her and carried her off to the underworld. So the harvest grain goddess Demeter had to go to Helios to ask where she had been taken to, and he told her to the underworld. So, long story short, Persephone spent 6 months in the underworld and 6 months above the world. It was all in relation to the sun and the seasons, the 6 months of winter and 6 months of summer. Again, the story of the sun being born or reborn, living its life, and then going to the underworld. The ancient concept of life, death, and rebirth. You see, the raping or the abduction goes way back into history, before even Persephone or Persephone, Proserpina. It goes back to the ancient abduction of the ancient purple scarlet whore who rode the beast, Europa. And of course, that's why I say Persephone, the Phoenician goddess who rode the beast. Thus, Zeus, who changed into a bull and abducted and raped and took away, carried her off, Europa. You'll notice the abductor is the El Toro, Taurus bull. Thus, as I have proven countless times, that all of the ancient religions, all of the ancient cultures of the world had their bull gods. And of course, they were related to both the lunar bull crescent moon as well as the solar sun. Thus, the Egyptian bull gods, and of course the relationship between the sun god Ra or Horus and the bull. In fact, Europa's name actually means the wide head or the wide face, like a cow. And Europa in the ancient Semitic origin and the Akkadian meant to go down and set, in reference to the sun. And of course, this is the great horror of Revelations, which we'll be getting back to. Then of course we have the famous descent of Inanna to the underworld. Inanna, the great horned bull goddess. So the descent of Inanna to the underworld is where many current-day myths and stories actually come from. Thus, we have the original descent to the underworld and the concept of hell. Thus, the 7 gates of Inanna's descent to the underworld. And of course, the symbol of the torch is the only light that is available in the underworld. Thus, it is a symbol of the descent of the goddess. And of course, we find these stories in the Epic of Gilgamesh that goes back thousands of years before the Bible, and we have all the biblical stories of the flood, the deluge. And of course, they slay the bull in a offering to the sun god Shamash, which was a sun sacrifice. You see, because it's all about the sowing and the reaping, or the raping of the sun. It's abduction and carrying off. And of course, this was just the beginning. Part 2 will seal the deal.